Our story begins in 1952, deep within the caves of Qumran near the Dead Sea. Archaeologists made a discovery unlike any other. It was not written on parchment nor on papyrus, but on metal, copper, and inscribed on its corroded surface was a text that would spark one of the greatest mysteries in biblical archaeology. A detailed list of 64 locations, each describing hidden treasures of gold, silver, and sacred objects. This was the Copper Scroll. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, which contained scriptures and religious writings, this one read like a treasure map. If true, it could lead to one of the largest hoards of wealth in history, possibly the lost treasures of the Jerusalem Temple itself. But after more than 70 years, the treasure has never been found. Was it real? Was it symbolic? Or has it already been uncovered in secret? Today we will explore the enduring mystery of the Copper Scroll treasure. Imagine you're an archaeologist exploring the sun-scorched cliffs near the Dead Sea. Qumran Cave 3. For years this region gave up secrets in the form of ancient scrolls. But today is different, tucked away in the back separate from the separated artifacts. Two rolled-up pieces of metal, green with age, heavily oxidized, clearly made of copper. This isn't just another religious text, it's something else entirely, something heavy, something permanent. The initial excitement was electric, but it was matched by a wave of confusion. To truly grasp why the Copper Scroll was such a bombshell, you have to understand the context. The story really kicked off around 1947. Legend has it that a young Bedouin shepherd looking for a lost goat tossed a rock into a cave and heard the surprising sound of shattering pottery. Inside he found clay jars stuffed with ancient manuscripts. This single accidental discovery set off a chain reaction, leading to the unearthing of one of the greatest archaeological finds of the 20th century. It was like finding a lost library from the time of Jesus. Over the next decade, archaeologists and Bedouin explorers scoured the cliffs around the Qumran settlement, eventually uncovering a total of 11 caves containing scrolls. These caves yielded a treasure trove of nearly 1,000 different manuscripts. The vast majority were written on traditional materials like animal parchment and papyrus. They contained a fascinating mix of texts, the oldest known copies of books from the Hebrew Bible, commentaries on those scriptures, rules for a mysterious religious community, texts describing apocalyptic visions and priestly rites. It was a snapshot of a vibrant and diverse Jewish world from over 2,000 years ago. These texts were revolutionary. They gave scholars an unprecedented window into the period that gave birth to modern rabbinic Judaism and Christianity. And then along came the Copper Scroll, the ultimate outlier. It wasn't written on parchment, it wasn't about biblical interpretations. It wasn't even written in the same formal Hebrew as the other scrolls. Its language was more colloquial. It didn't fit with anything. While the other scrolls were the equivalent of a sacred library, the Copper Scroll was something else entirely. It was a practical document, a ledger, an inventory. It was a treasure map. So what exactly does this bizarre metal scroll say? When the experts in Manchester finally sliced it open, they were stunned. It wasn't a psalm or a prophecy, it was a dry, straightforward list of 64 locations, and at each location a staggering amount of hidden treasure. The text reads like a cryptic scavenger hunt, immense quantities of gold and silver. Valuable vessels, priestly vestments. The numbers are mind-boggling. Dozens, maybe hundreds of tons. This wasn't just a stash. It was a king's ransom. The clues are specific yet vague. The ruin in the valley of Achor, the cistern in the court of the small colonnade, the water conduit of the northern reservoir, tombs, aqueducts, caves, ritual bathing pools. Dig down 17 cubits or at a depth of 3 cubits. You can almost feel the author giving precise directions. 2,000 years later, the landscape has changed. The geography becomes a puzzle. Many place names are no longer identifiable. Tomb of the Son of the Common People, erased. A certain dovecote, erased. Some clues point to Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. Others point to Qumran or Jericho. Without a key, the map is nearly impossible to follow. It's like directions to a chest in a city that no longer exists. Sheer scale again, thousands of talents. A single talent, about 75 pounds, if literal, far larger than any private fortune. A national or temple treasury, hidden across dozens of caches. As soon as the translation was made public, a fierce debate erupted that continues to this day. What are we to make of this incredible list? The theories generally fall into a few major camps, each with its own passionate defenders. The first and most exciting theory is that the scroll is exactly what it appears to be, a literal inventory of real physical treasure. Proponents believe the fortune was the legendary treasure of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, hidden away for safekeeping right before the Romans sacked the city in 70 AD, a desperate act to save the sacred wealth from being plundered and melted down. A second theory connects the treasure to the mysterious community at Qumran, often identified as the Essene. Perhaps this sect, known for its communal living and ascetic lifestyle, had amassed a significant treasury over generations. Facing the Roman threat, they might have hidden communal wealth and sacred items in the landscape they knew. This explains why the scroll was found at Qumran. It was their secret insurance policy. Skeptics and academics offer a symbolic interpretation. They argue the treasure isn't real gold and silver, but religious folklore or allegory. Maybe it's a metaphor for spiritual wisdom or divine knowledge. The scroll as a symbolic map. The act of searching a spiritual journey. They point to the impossibly large quantities listed as evidence the fortune couldn't realistically exist. Finally, the most cynical take, the copper scroll as an elaborate hoax. Created to mislead someone, perhaps the Romans sending searchers on a wild goose chase, or the product of a single eccentric, a fantasy etched into metal. The scroll is so unique we must consider all possibilities. It could be the key to a nation's lost fortune. The copper scroll, real treasure, sacred metaphor, or ancient hoax. With a genuine treasure map in hand, it was only a matter of time before people started digging. The promise of tons of gold and silver hidden just beneath the sands of the Judean desert was an irresistible lure for adventurers, archaeologists, and dreamers. One of the most famous early explorers was a man named John Allegro, one of the original scholars on the international team. Unlike his more cautious colleagues, Allegro was a firm believer that the treasure was real and could be found. He broke ranks with the academic consensus and mounted several expeditions in the late 1950s and early 60s. Allegro's hunts were the stuff of legend. Armed with the scroll's cryptic clues, he and his teams scoured the wilderness around Qumran and Jericho. They explored ancient aqueducts, crawled into dusty tombs, and excavated cisterns, following the text as literally as they could. The media loved it, and his expeditions were followed with breathless anticipation around the world. Unfortunately, despite his intense efforts and unshakable conviction, Allegro found nothing. He returned empty-handed, his reputation among mainstream scholars damaged. His failure only seemed to deepen the mystery and fuel the belief that the treasure was just too well hidden. Over the decades, countless others have tried to pick up where Allegro left off. Some have been serious archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar and modern survey equipment, while others have been amateur sleuths with little more than a copy of the translation and a shovel. The landscape has been secretly and sometimes illegally excavated by people consumed with finding the temple's riches. These modern-day fortune seekers face incredible obstacles: the harsh desert environment, the passage of 2 millennia that has altered landmarks and restricted areas. To this day, not a single ounce of the Copper Scroll treasure has ever been officially reported as found. For true believers, this only proves how brilliant the original hiding plan was. They argue the treasure is still out there, waiting for someone clever enough to finally decipher the clues. Whenever you have a story about a massive lost treasure, you're bound to get conspiracy theories. A persistent belief is that the treasure, or at least part of it, has already been found. This theory suggests the discovery was made in secret and deliberately covered up. By an individual, by a group, by a government. A discovery of this magnitude would be incredibly destabilizing, and there are powerful interests who might want to keep it under wraps. Many potential treasure sites are in the West Bank, a region of intense political dispute. Imagine the international crisis that would erupt if a vast Jewish temple treasure were unearthed there. Questions of ownership would immediately come to the forefront. Who would have a rightful claim? Israel, the Palestinian Authority, a religious institution? The global chaos would be immense. For this reason, some believe any government that stumbled upon such a find would classify it at the highest level. Another branch of this theory points the finger at religious authorities. What if the treasure includes not just gold and silver, but sacred artifacts from the temple itself? Perhaps even something as significant as the Ark of the Covenant. The discovery would have profound theological implications for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Some theorists argue certain religious bodies would see such a discovery as dangerous. These conspiracy theories are fueled by the lack of any physical evidence and official silence. While mainstream archaeologists dismiss these ideas as fantasy, they persist in books, documentaries, and online forums. The stories often involve clandestine digs, secret tunnels beneath the Temple Mount, and powerful shadowy organizations dedicated to either finding or protecting the treasure. Let's play the what-if game. What if tomorrow's headlines screamed, "Copper Scroll treasure found"? The impact would be nothing short of earth-shattering, rippling across the globe. It would touch history, religion, politics, and finance. First, the historical implications would be immense. The discovery would validate the Copper Scroll as genuine. It would provide a tangible link to the Second Temple period. It would offer insight into the economy, its rituals, and its final desperate days. The artifacts would be a priceless addition to our understanding of the ancient world. The religious shockwave would be even bigger. If from the Temple of Jerusalem, it'd be the most significant discovery in Judeo-Christian history. Jewish people worldwide would see it as a miraculous recovery of sacred heritage. For some, it might be seen as linked to messianic prophecies or to the rebuilding of a third temple. For Christians, artifacts from Jesus' time would be of incalculable significance. The site would become an instant global pilgrimage. Politically, the discovery would be a powder keg. The question of ownership would spark an international crisis. Who gets the gold? Who gets the artifacts? The country where it's found? The state of Israel? All Jewish people worldwide? A UN-administered trust? Legal and diplomatic battles would be ferocious and could lead to serious conflict. And then the sheer spectacle. The story would dominate global media for months, maybe years. The world would be captivated by a real-life treasure adventure. The gold and silver alone could be worth billions, but the historical and religious value would be priceless. Museums worldwide would clamor to display even a single coin. Finding the Copper Scroll's treasure wouldn't just be an archaeological discovery, it would fundamentally alter our connection to the past and reshape the political and religious landscape of the present. It would be nothing short of world-changing. Decades have passed since those 2 green rolls of copper were carried out of Cave 3. Scholars have debated, adventurers have hunted, conspiracy theorists have whispered, but the copper scroll holds its secrets as tightly as ever. It remains the most baffling and tantalizing of all the corroded scrolls. A complete anomaly. It sits at the intersection of history, faith, and old-fashioned treasure hunting. Is it a priceless historical inventory, a profound spiritual allegory, or a clever and enduring deception? We are no closer to a definitive answer today than we were in 1952. The scroll's power lies in its ambiguity. It offers just enough detail to seem real, but not enough to be provable. Specific, yet unidentifiable locations and staggering, yet not entirely impossible quantities keep the dream alive. For every scholar who dismisses it as folklore, there's an explorer who believes they are just one clue away from a breakthrough. The document is a perfect mystery, one that allows people to project their own hopes, beliefs, and skepticisms onto it. It is a testament to our fascination with the past and our eternal desire for a tangible connection to epic stories. This mystery continues to fuel research and imagination. New technologies offer fresh hope: satellite imaging, advanced metal detectors that might one day scan the wilderness and spot anomalies. At the same time, linguistic analysis continues as scholars try to crack the code of its geographical clues. The copper scroll is not a cold case, it's an active investigation, being pursued in university libraries and perhaps in some even now. Ultimately, the copper scroll's enduring legacy might not be the gold or silver it describes, but the sense of wonder it inspires. It reminds us that the ancient world can still surprise us. So assistimos adins des vatos huces so today so des so still profound mysteries buried beneath our feet. It challenges us to question what we think we know about history and to keep searching for answers. The treasure may or may not be real, but the quest it has inspired is undeniable. It's a haunting biblical mystery that has become a legend in its own right. So here we are, left with more questions than answers. Could the treasure still be found? Absolutely. It's a long shot, but someone with the right combination of knowledge, technology, and luck could stumble upon one of the 64 sites. The copper scroll is a perfect unsolved riddle from the ancient world, and as long as it remains unsolved, the adventure continues.